Okay, thank you. Please join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Welcome to the special meeting of the Select Board for the purpose of setting the tax rate. Carrie has kindly provided to us I think it's called draft number 2.
Okay, it is.
Which is the one-page worksheet that is the summary of all of our expenses and anticipated income and a projection of what the tax rate should be. Well, it's actually 2 pages because there's some on the second page too. Then there's a nice little worksheet on the information sheet on the 3rd page and another information sheet on the last page. So as in the past, we have taken a look at this. Some numbers that we looked at in particular are where the local option taxes are. A couple of things that I've talked with Carrie about. One is that when we set the police budget, we anticipated in that having the CFAC grant for $60,000. We have since canceled the CFAC grant to bring Ed Dumas more time on the highways, essentially is what it is, more patrol hours. So we have lost $60,000 in anticipated income. We also, you will remember, agreed to increase the hourly rate paid to members of our police department to provide more equity within the department. And I think you said that was another 16,000 to 20,000 over what we budgeted for. So we actually have made some moves that will create a deficit in the police budget to the tune of about $76,000 to $80,000. At the same time, we have 2 larger numbers than anticipated. Local option for last year, which we anticipated at $1,050,000, actually came in at just about $1,200,000, or as Don pointed out, $150,000 more than anticipated. And so we've got to decide which number we go with. Do we continue to be conservative because we don't know what's going to happen with the rooms and meals portion of that, for example? And the third item is the fact that our highway department had a very large carryover of $619,000. Now we're used to some carryover from highway. Byron was whittling it down on advice of our auditor, but because we held off on paving, there's $619,000 carryover. So that's a big number. Now,
Mary,
with that, yes.
Just when you're talking about the highway, so last year we didn't do the paving, and I believe last year's paving was somewhere in around scheduled to be about 400,000, right? 300,000 or 400,000.
I can tell you exactly, but okay.
But yeah, so we didn't do that. So part of that 619, I believe, is last year's paving, which, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be done this year. So we're going to, I think, right. So we're going to spend that 4 plus 4 out of the current budget.
Well, that's
the budget that starts July 1st, I thought was what had 300,000 or 400,000 plus the 300 or 400 from last year. So in actuality, that 619 probably isn't that much, but that's how I understood what we were doing, because we told Byron to hold off because we didn't know how the income was going to be, and then the plan was to double up this year. So in actuality. And without Byron here, I guess but that's what I think is happening. 400 of that may already be spent.
I think you're right, because I think we let the contracts out last fiscal year, and we're using money carryover money for this fiscal year. So I think you're right about that. And as long as
Yeah.
we let the contracts early enough in the spring next year, we should be paying out. So I think you're probably right. I mean, I think we're going to get a couple of different paving years kind of in one just by default. Don, were you going to say something?
Well, I think Joe's right. I
Yeah.
mean, the idea was that we were going to recoup what we didn't spend last year, and he was going to double up. And I think that's what he's done this year.
Yeah.
But, until he comes up with a final figure as to whether he did recoup the whole amount from last year, then we're kind of guessing now, but we're
Yeah.
close.
I think we're close. Plus, we also had some carryover from the previous year.
Put it
too.
this way, the
Yeah.
intent was that we were not going to curtail our paving activities more than that 1 year, and that we were going to
Catch up.
double up the next year. So
Okay, so I think we're good with
And,
that. Yeah.
and Mary, the other thing is, I think Fuller was supposed to start like the first part of May or sometime in May and do the paving, and they would have billed us for a portion, like the 400,000 in that fiscal year, and then it would be gone. And then the 400,000 in the current budget would have taken place after July 1st. And I think they got way behind because it was June or early, it was June they were paving Grove Street. So
Okay.
I don't think they put their bills in, so they carry, it didn't get paid by June 30th like it should have.
Okay.
They're way behind in the paving.
So I think the highway issue then is resolved. I don't think we need to worry about that. So that leaves us with, what about the anticipated deficit? Because we didn't do we gave up the CFAC contract, which would have done $60,000.
can we transfer?
Well, I think
Can-
Carrie
can-
looked
yeah.
into that for us. Yeah. So Carrie has an answer.
Okay.
What is your question, Don? So I
Can we
answer it?
transfer? I mean, we have $150,000 of excess in the 1%.
Mhm.
Can't we transfer and cover the deficit in the police department?
Well, that brings up a couple of questions. The first question from that is, that was last fiscal year. And that makes me wonder, because we have to sweep the entire excess of our budget year into capital improvements as approved by voters a few years back. And that, I believe, includes the local option money. So in my heart of hearts, knowing that that's what the voters voted on, I don't think that we can use that money that goes into capital improvements, because we closed out that year and now we're starting a new year. But what we can do is anticipate perhaps a little more local option for this year, which will help with that deficit. Then that also brought up questions to that I brought forth to our auditor. If we're talking about a deficit year in a certain department, and since we're talking about the police department, they said it's okay to overspend in a year. It's not against audit law, is how I like to put it. Obviously, there's better terms out there, but so it's okay to do that. But if we look at, I don't think it'll be as big as we thought. What we do as a general, so each department, and I'm kind of saying this for the public because I know you guys know, but we have a general budget aside from the police, the fire, the highway. General kind of encompasses town hall and the transfer station and different things like that, elections. We will adjust the general budget as needed to help with the other departments. So that's kind of what you see at the beginning. And what I think we can do is in numbers, basically, at the end of the year, when June 30th hits and we may have overspent, I mean, we're just kind of planning that that will happen. The general money that was allocated for that will cover some of that deficit. And instead of having a large amount that is deficit, we're squeezing it down to maybe 16,000 that we would be over. In the grand scheme of things, I think we're going to be okay. It will just look like a department overspent, but really it's a department within a giant umbrella of the money that exists.
Right. Well, I understand that, and we're not in any critical nature here. Mary, I'm just thinking back to when we first started allocating the 1% funds, and the idea back then, and I think it has continued, is that we would use the 1% funds to take care of our general budget, and then any that was left over from that,
For
which
police.
would cover our police
Right.
department.
Right.
So I think it's entirely appropriate to link the 1%
Uh-huh.
overage with the police department. Now, the question is, can we do it for the previous year? No, you answered that question.
Right.
We can't, but
But
I really think
you've got it. You've
we
got
ha-
it. Yes.
but we really should take a little bit more aggressive approach in the anticipation department. And I don't think 50 or 60 or 70 would be unreal to assume that we would put $1 million, $1.1 million or $1.1 million in there for an anticipated 1%.
Okay.
Because I don't think the economy's going down. I think it's gonna be coming back. Well,
And if it comes in at 1,200,000, there's still enough to go toward the police
Right.
deficit for the coming year.
right.
Okay.
So,
So
Mary?
are you, yes, go ahead, Joe.
So if, I think Don's on the right track here, and I think we're all on the same page with this. So if we left it at the 1,050,000 and with another new business coming in and hopefully the economy is rebounding pretty good and we end up with 1.2, then that extra 150, wouldn't that just offset the police budget? Because I know we've done this in the past when we've had
Yeah.
over anticipated, we just reduced that. Couldn't we'll just kind of like play this by ear, and when we get down to that fourth quarter next year, we'll see where we are, and we may end up with no deficit at all, because we may end up with 150,000 in income more than we did this year. And it could just be applied to cover that anticipated possible 76,000 shortfall.
Well, I think there's two things, and I want to go back and ask Don, does that mean we should be increasing our estimate of local option, not up to the 1.2 that we actually made this year, but to some number that's a little lower, but have it big enough so it will cover the,
most of, if
Yeah.
not all of, the police deficit.
yeah,
That's my intention, and I think it's fair. I really think it's fair to the taxpayers, because
Yeah.
we bargained with them that if you approve this 1%, we intend to use it to reduce your taxes, and we have been doing that with the general, and we funded that plus our police department with that money. And I think it should show legitimately in the documents that we used that money to cover what we felt was a necessity in the police department, which we
so
did.
what's your number for a local option estimate?
170,
If-
160, 170. I mean, we're still,
Oh, hi, Sharon.
Hi there.
hi, Sharon.
I don't know how much of
Hi.
that you caught.
Most of it.
Okay, good. So we're adjusting upwards. We're talking about adjusting upwards the local option, our
Estimate.
best estimate of revenues, because that will in turn decrease the tax rate, because we won't have to raise as much taxes. So so Don's thinking 1,000,000,
Say 1.1.
1.1.
That's just, if we went, the only question I'll have, Mary, while we're doing this, if we change that anticipated option tax to 1.1 million instead of 1,050,000, that's going to change what's on these papers? And will we be able to approve this, or do we have to meet again? And my point would be, why don't we, if we can approve what's here tonight, leave it as it is, and if we get the excess, it's automatically going to go partially toward the police department. We don't really have to change anything. I just wondering if we change anything, do we have to have another meeting?
I think Carrie can, if we sit in recess for a few minutes, Carrie can go do a quick calculation using are we at 1.1 million?
Well, that gives us 50, and you said that we needed 70. Somewhere around 70.
But remember,
yeah.
Another question that I had for our auditors, a part of the increase of the police salary, part of that talk when you approved that was using the money allocated for the first constable, Ed's constable position, to use that allocated money toward the increase amounts to cover the increase. So my question was, well, that money kind of lives.
It's already there.
It's living in general. Of course, this is all money in the same pot, but accounting purposes, can we legally take money and say, well, it's over here in general, but we need it over here. Can I just put it over there in police to help them with their salary? And Andrew said that is completely okay in an auditor's standpoint.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
And I'm glad I asked him and have him for a resource, because I'd hate to do anything illegal.
Yeah.
So the deficit is not that much, because we're using that money over in the police.
Okay, so 60 would be the number. Then,
Well, 60 might be the number, but we're already a full month into the fiscal year. So we haven't hired a new officer. So we've got 1 month savings toward what would.
And they're not talking till September.
Right, probably.
Well,
So
let's put it this way.
We
Joe's suggestion that to make it 100, to make it 1.1, and that makes it 50,000 that we're covering, and the rest is negligible. We'll cover it somehow.
Okay, so it sounds like the proposal is to go with $1,100,000 for the estimate for the local option tax. If we want to give Carrie a minute to go.
Certainly.
Okay, go do the calculations. I've got two other quick things.
Do you mind if I go do that?
No, go right ahead. So
All right.
we'll ask her to do that. And I've got two other quick things. One is you'll remember that we did the town health officer approval for reappointment of JP. Apparently we did the wrong form. And
Cool.
I know. And instead we recommended her for alternate health
I saw
officer
that. It was
instead
deputy.
of the real thing. So we've been asked to correct it. I think our motion and what we approved was to appoint him as health officer. So if nobody has any objection, I'm going to sign the correct form now on behalf of the board. Anybody have any problem?
Nope.
Nope.
I noticed that. I wasn't at the meeting, but I noticed it said deputy.
We demoted him.
And I said, whoa,
By
who's
accident.
he bringing on as his deputy? Now, he's got so much work as health officer. He's got to have a deputy.
Okay, so that takes care of that form.
Done.
Item number 2 is kind of related to the budget discussion, which is Sharon and I, as the police committee, had an email from Ted Washburn asking us to give him some times and dates when we could meet with a couple of candidates to fill the fourth position. And I wanted to have this discussion tonight to make sure we were still going forward to fully fund, 4 positions. And it sounds like we are. So that.
In the meantime, I don't know if he told you, one of the candidates withdrew their application.
Okay.
There's only one candidate left.
Okay. So we're
You don't need to worry about the interviews.
well, we'll have one interview, I guess, maybe. So Sharon and I will advise Ted that he can go ahead and set up the interview, or if he receives somebody else in the meantime, then we will be interviewing for the 4th position. So good.
Mary?
Okay. Yes,
Mary,
sir.
can you do me a favor? Yeah, can you do me a favor when you meet with the chief or the deputy chief, and just pass on that I've been getting quite a bit of negative feedback from town folks about the lack of patrol that we promised would be there back in March
Okay.
when we made this whole change and we were going to become a patrol department, and that's what's going to be our emphasis in our and I have really got a lot of negative feedback from East Pittsford Road, Post Road, myself on Grove Street, and I'm sure you might have a few comments about Crick Road where you live in. And I think that the folks listened to that meeting in March, and they're kind of disappointed in not seeing folks out there. So just bring
Fair
that
enough,
up,
Joe.
and yeah, thank you.
I will. And
Joel.
I'd add to that, yes, you're right about Creek Road. I'd also add to that Chizana Drive. There's another complaint area. You got some too, Don?
Well, I'm glad you brought it up, Joe, because I've been getting the same from quite a few individuals. And, you know, that's why I brought it up at the last meeting with our police department being taken off the roads to do stuff at Diamond Run Mall and so forth. But I've also been getting a lot of complaints about speed control. And I guess that may fall into JP's department because he's been really, really good at what he does. I mean, he's very efficient and he's been out there and he's been putting some time in. And I would encourage him to do more of that. But now that we've got or we will get our new officer on, I would like to see a little more speed control, especially on those main routes. Those interconnector routes like Post Road and Grove Street and Creek Road, those are critical. And I mean, you know, everybody expects 4 or 5 miles over, or some of them think they can get away with 9. But when you're 15 and 20 miles over the speed limit, that's just dangerous. I mean, that's a problem. So.
Okay, so we'll pass that along. I think that's points really well taken. We did tell the people that we were trying to up the amount of patrols, and we need to show that we have. So Carrie has cranked the numbers and added local option in at 1.1 million, which has, if you go on the cover sheet here on the right-hand side where it has total tax rate, it has homestead tax. That has now decreased to 1.6750.
Oh, wait, where?
Right-hand side.
Yeah, homestead.
Yep, 1.6750. And the non-residential tax is 1.8116. So they have both dropped due to the calculation. Did Sharon, you got that? And Joey, you got that?
I emailed them.
Yes, you did. Thank you. Yep.
Okay,
Got
good.
it.
All right.
Is JP on?
No,
I did
I
email
think
him a
he
copy
got-
as well.
I think he got the same as me. Said it was 6.
okay, so I think we're finished with discussion, but I'll entertain a motion to set the tax rates.
I move we approve the tax rate. It would be the total tax rate for the town of 1.8116.
For non-residential and,
Where's the other one?
right, slide
next
your
to
finger over just a bit, same row. The
I
homestead.
don't have it on
Yeah, you do.
here.
That's the one she just gave you.
Yeah, well,
Do
okay.
you see the?
And
Where'd you write it?
I'm sorry.
coming.
My eyes just weren't going in the right place.
It's coming.
And a homestead tax of 1.6750.
Okay,
I'll
motion's
second the
made.
motion.
Joey seconds. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Sharon, did I hear you?
Yes.
Okay, aye, and I'll vote aye. So we have now set the tax rate for the coming year, and it is a decrease.
Cool.
Okay,
Good news.
It is very good news. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, department heads. Thank you, Carrie and Susan, for crunching the numbers and coming up with good news. Yay. And thank you all for coming out on a rainy off.
Well, some of us didn't come out, Mary. Some of us
Whatever.
didn't come out.
Fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we missed you, John Paul, but that's all right. You can make it next time. I make a motion, Madam Chair, that we adjourn this meeting.
Motion's made to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Joe, I've made the two little typo changes on our, all in favor of adjourning, say aye. The motion carries. We're done.